The Arkham series is one great compilation of action-adventure titles, so let's take a look at the latest Batman Arkham Knight, the game that wraps up the Rocksteady trilogy. There's a lot to talk about, so let's start off with the story. This is the game I've been expecting since Arkham City ended. The entire Gotham is here for you to explore. Now there's more Batman characters, the Batmobile, new gadgets, puzzles, riddles, and so much more. They're here, but they lack some polish. Arkham Knight ditches the great Paul Dini, who was the original writer for the Arkham Asylum and City video games, as well as plethora of Batman-related media like the animated series and Justice League cartoon. This change in writers really shows, as the game struggles to have a complex and well-crafted story. The main focus of the game is on Scarecrow, who feels like a carbon copy from Strange from Arkham City. You'll see him plastered across large TVs, and wherever there's a screen, you're most likely gonna see Scarecrow there one minute or the next. Scarecrow feels like a little bit underdeveloped, as he always taunts Batman from afar, and you will never get to have a confrontation with him on a one-on-one scale. You'll never get to engage him in a proper boss fight. Just like Strange from City, his plan involves chaos and explosions, as he makes a toxin and releases it across Gotham. I felt it was something way too similar to Protocol 10 in Arkham City. Scarecrow is one of the game's letdowns, at least for me. He was a villain that was left underdeveloped, and in the end your confrontation with him just comes down to watching a simple cutscene. His story, or rather how he made the toxin, is told to you optionally by some panels in a blimp, which are things you could easily overlook. And that's how I feel Scarecrow is, overlooked. He isn't someone that can actually challenge the Dark Knight, and you never get to see how Scarecrow was born and how he actually started fighting the Dark Knight. If you're not a fan of the Arkham games and you just jumped in, well, know that Scarecrow appeared in Asylum, but was missing in City, since he was preparing something for Gotham and for Batman. Now that we know what it is, unfortunately, it's just underwhelming. In the end, they wanted to hype up Scarecrow as a worthy foe, but he crumbles down due to the story's direction and the fact that you really don't have any confrontation with Scarecrow. It lacks polish, and it's something that was really overlooked. In fact, you could say the story is more of a remix of Arkham City's story, but somehow it has less villains, less focus, and almost no boss fights. And I'm talking about the main story, as some of the side quests are very well developed. Talking about the main story, there's no denying, Arkham Knight is here and he stole the show. Now, he's in league with Scarecrow, and after rather obvious clues to who he is, well, he does bring the power, he does bring the confrontation, he does face Batman. But the identity of Arkham Knight is one of the game's many letdowns. It was done somewhat well, but I think everyone wanted for Arkham Knight to be someone completely new, to be someone that would really mess with our heads. The surprise in this game is underwhelming, and there really isn't any cool twist in this game, not like it was in Arkham City. Now, talking about Arkham Knight, he is powerful, he's able, he's got enough strength to make you feel like you're going up against someone that would actually pose a threat to Batman. His story is one of the best things the game has to offer, and unfortunately it's dragged down by some rather lame boss fights, as your big confrontation with him, you guessed it, comes down to jumping around in the Batmobile like a crazy nut and shooting in stealth as a tank. And this is a very clumsy approach to tie a loose overarching narrative together. Midway through the story, the stakes are raised as Batman is shown vulnerable. His allies are attacked, but all this is reduced to nothing, as in the end almost everyone dodges the bullet, and it leaves the game feeling more similar to a Marvel movie. Yeah, there are some consequences, especially after the end, but ones that would really make a difference, or ones that would really capture you as an audience, as a Batman player, they're cancelled. The main story has 4 villains and one big surprise. The 4 villains are Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Arkham Knight, and Scarecrow. Now, there's one standout moment in the game's direction, namely a 1-hour section where you get to fight as Batman and Robin, and you're gonna fight Harley and her goons, and it's very inventive. It's well crafted, and it's a ton of fun. I really liked them, and that was the Batman and Robin levels. They're the best part of this game, by far. Unfortunately, you guessed it, one of the game's many features is reduced to a brief segment. There's also 2 other co-op campaigns, one with Catwoman and the other with Nightwing, and again they last around 1 hour. When this feature was advertised, I assumed it was fully implemented into the story, and you would have Batman and the Bat family fight against the villains. But this isn't the case. No. This is Batman and the Batmobile with a sprinkle of coolness on top. Unfortunately, the story is mostly divided into Batman out of the car and Batman in the Batmobile. And I feel the Batmobile really drags the story to a halt, as the whole world has been specifically designed so that it forces you, the player, to avoid levels as Batman and to jump right into the Batmobile almost every single encounter. It's so much emphasis on the Batmobile, it's crazy. Now, a core part of the Batman experience is the Bat family. We've only gotten a taste here, and I have to say, playing Batman and Robin, Batman and Catwoman, Batman and Nightwing, doing co-op things, co-op challenges, solving riddles, fighting goons, that was amazing, that was spectacular, and that was by far the best part of this game, both story-wise and gameplay-wise. Those were the best sections in the game. Now I want to see more of this in the DLC. Unfortunately, the story is a mixed bag, as it really does lack any sort of polish. The villains that are presented in the story are far too few compared to the other Arkham games, and the fact that one of the main villains is just reduced to simple cutscenes really detracts me from appreciating the game's story. It does feel like Paul Dini was not here, and it really does show, but the writer who they got to replace, they did a subpar job. Yeah, this is an Arkham game, but story-wise, it's the weakest of the series so far.